Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to Test Tube Plus today. I'm Trace. We take a big topic here on Test Tube Plus and we break it into a bunch of little chunks so we can all understand it a little bit better. So make sure you subscribe so that you can get all of the chunks of this week's episodes on terrorism. It's a heavy topic. We like those here on Test Tube Plus. We're going to talk about what is it, where it came from, why people do it at all, and whether or not terrorism works. It's going to be fun. Well, and dark. But fun. So, when it comes to terrorism, it's kind of tied mostly to politics, right? We all want politics and social changes to go our way, but only a select few of us then think it's okay to take drastic measures and violence when it doesn't go our way. And those people are usually labeled terrorists. Terrorism is not ingrained in humanity. This is an extreme version of a very small thing that can happen to humans or with humans. Really, the thing we wanted to know when we were researching this episode is, what are the oldest known terrorist groups? And one of the first believed terrorist groups is a group of Jewish collaborators in the 1st century known as the Sicarii. The Sicarii carried out murders and assassinations with short little daggers, which is kind of a calling card, like incriminating, like the wet bandits from Home Alone. I don't know. It seems weird, but maybe it was also part of their intimidation tactics. They were led by descendants of Judas of Galilee, who helped organize and promote the revolt against direct Roman rule in 6 CE. They were known to have murdered enemies in their campaign to oust their Roman rulers from Judea. Another early terrorist group is the group Hashishiyyin, led by Hassan al Sabbah. Back in 632, following the death of Prophet Muhammad, Muslims were split between Sunnis and Shiites. The Shiites, or the Shia, became the minority, believing that the successor to Muhammad would be a relative, or should be the relative of the Prophet. In this case, it would be the daughter's husband, Ali, because of course the woman cannot succeed in this group. The Sunnis, on the other hand, they believe something completely different. To quote Gregory Gause, who is a professor of Middle East politics at the University of Vermont, the Sunnis believed that leadership should fall to the person who was deemed by the elite of the community to be best able to lead that community. And it was fundamentally that political division that began the Sunni-Shia split, which continues today. Now, where Hassan al Sabbah comes into play is that he was an inherent of the Nizari Ismaili sect, or part of the Shia minority, and he was not okay with the growth of Sunni power or their political alliances. And then he saw himself as the incarnation of the just ruler, so he gathered loyal followers, and he swore to ignite revolution against the Sunni and their existing authority. He led the group called the Hashishiyyin, and his preferred strategy of subverting authority was to make the enemy fear his group through assassinations. The name Hashishiyyin actually meant hashish users, but it was later passed into English as the word assassins, which is pretty cool. The reason I bring all of this up, of course, is that Osama bin Laden refers to the legend of Hassan al Sabbah in his will. And today, bin Laden is pretty much synonymous with terrorism. Pretty interesting. We throw the word terrorism around a lot these days. It's become kind of blasé almost. The presumptive Democratic nominee, if you go with some circles, Hillary Clinton, called the Republicans who would eliminate a lot of women's rights in line with terrorists. I mean, they're not actually terrorists, but we use this in kind of a hyperbolic way these days. But terrorism has a very specific definition. When you commit a crime, you can be charged with terrorism. Although terrorism can also be considered sometimes a hate crime, right? Hate crimes are different. They're not separate charges. They're part of the crime itself. It's an enhancement to the severity of the punishment. For example, if someone is convicted of assault, they might receive a certain length of prison sentence if they were convicted. But if there was a hate crime aspect to that assault, then the charges would be even more severe. The prison sentence might be longer. Terrorism, on the other hand, is separate from hate crimes in that it is a charge that you can have. You can be charged with terrorism. The U.S. defines domestic terrorism as activities that meet 3 different criteria. 1, dangerous to human life that violate federal or state law. 2, are intended to intimidate or coerce civilians or governments. And 3, that it occurs primarily within the U.S., domestic terrorism. What gets confusing when it comes to terrorism, according to Gary Lafree, director of National Consortium for the Study of Terrorism and Responses to Terrorism, different parts of the U.S. government, he says, tend to have different definitions of terrorism. And that's bad when it comes to legally charging someone with terrorism. That means that whether or not someone is charged with either a hate crime or terrorism-related charges can be entirely dependent on the prosecutor of that case. And sometimes it isn't in the prosecutor's best interest to add terrorism to the charges, because adding that element could confuse the jury if they go to trial. And if they're already looking at life in prison, there's no reason to tack on an extra charge of terrorism, because that could mess up the whole case. It gets to be really confusing. Dr. Lafree also stated that terrorism prosecutions are harder to prove than regular crimes because the crucial parts of the charges of terrorism rely on the motive and other psychological factors. In the end, terrorism, as we look at it now, is really more of a political or social distinction. It's a crime and a type of crimes that we talk about, but we use the word terrorism in a weird way a lot of the time. But the number of people who think that terrorism is their only course of action and that the thing that they have to do, those people are in the minority. That's a very small group of people. But yet, it does seem like a lot of people get pulled into terrorist groups, especially like ISIS. How does that happen? We're going to talk more about that tomorrow on Test 2 Plus, so tune back in, make sure you subscribe, and we will see you then. Make sure you check out last week's episodes as well, which you can click in the link in the description to see those, and we'll see you tomorrow on Test 2 Plus.